Hello, everyone. Welcome to Monster of the Week, our third episode ever. First guest was Jonathan Mayberry. Second guest was the scriptwriter for The Rocketeer, Danny Bilson. And today's guest is the fantastic best-selling author, Delilah Dawson. We're going to be talking about her book, which you see on the screen now, Mine, which is coming out very, very soon. And my plug is, since her favorite monster is Gmork, who's a very wolfy creature, I have a book with a very wolfy creature. Some of you may have read that. That book is called Nocturnal. If you haven't read Nocturnal, I highly suggest you pick it up because it's got sort of a wolf. It's got a wolf with a skewed mouth and a tongue, and it just hangs down. It just drools a lot. It's like your family dog if your family dog wanted to murder everyone in the city of San Francisco. So let's get that doing. Before we jump into it with Delilah, let me show you what we have coming up. Such awesome guests. This show is shaping up to be a good time. Next week, novelist Nicholas Sansbury Smith is going to be talking about The Terminator, the original Terminator, because that is a huge influence on his new book, E-Day, which is out now. Then we're going to have actress Rachel True. She is going to be talking about The Thing from the John Carpenter movie, not the remakes. Not that I have anything against the remakes. They're just not the actual Thing, although the John Carpenter one's a remake too. So the middle remake, the one right in the middle. Rachel is awesome. However, she did just get cast in a new movie, so we don't know if we'll have her on the 13th or not. We will figure that out. If not, we'll reschedule her. On August 20th, none other than the bad astronomer himself, Phil Plait, is going to be talking about the giant-ass ants from the movie Them. My first favorite monster ever. Now it's changed. I'm very excited about that. And then on August 27th, Professor Rachel Burks, who's going to be talking about the Cookie Monster. She got to pick any monster she wanted. She picked the Cookie Monster. I'm very, very excited about that. Let me get Delilah queued up and unmuted, and let's see when she's on. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, here we are. Whoops. Darn it. I spoiled the punchline. Darn. Anyways,
you want cookies?
I wanted to surprise everyone with like the fitness regimen you have, and I had that picture left up on the screen, so it's no longer a surprise. We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute. Delilah's always happy. Delilah showing off the guns.
Show you my guns.
Show you the guns. Let me read you her bio straight from her website. Delilah S. Dawson is the New York Times bestselling writer of Star Wars Phasma, plus Galaxy's Edge, Black Spire, Secrets of the Long Snoot, The Perfect Weapon, and Scorched the Blood series, Servants of the Storm, the hit series, Wake of Vultures, and the Shadow series as Lila Bowen, and a variety of short stories and anthologies such as Death and Honey, Robots vs. Fairies, Hellboy, an assortment of horrors, Violent Ends, Carney Punk, Three Slices, and Last Night a Superhero Saved My Life with Kevin Hearn. She is the co-writer of the Tales of Pell series. I'll be flashing those covers up as we talk. Delilah, welcome to Monster of the Week.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be the Monster of the Week.
You are our special Monster of the Week. Let's get right into it. You picked a monster that not a lot of people know. The people who know it extremely well. But ladies and gentlemen in the audience, I'm going to be adjusting her camera position as we talk, but we'll just go ahead.
Oh, I'm wiggling. This is my fault. I'm moving.
I got it too zoomed in. I'm going to fix that in 1 second. I don't know how to control the gear quite well yet. But we're talking about Gmork from The Neverending Story. That is a 1984 movie directed by Wolfgang Peterson, based on the book by Michael Ende, published in 1979. Let me give you the movie synopsis, then we're going to get into why Delilah likes this. On his way to school, Bastian ducks into a bookstore to avoid bullies, sneaking away with a book called The Neverending Story. Bastian begins reading in the school attic. The novel is about Fantasia, a fantasy land threatened by the Nothing, a darkness that destroys everything it touches. The kingdom needs the help of a human child to survive. When Bastian reads a description of himself in the book, he begins to wonder if Fantasia is real and needs him to survive. So let's get right into it, Delilah. What is it about Gmork? Why is Gmork your favorite?
Because when I look back when I was younger, certain parts of different movies very much scared me to where I would have to watch with my eyes covered by my hands. And one of the first ones was Gmork that I remember being pretty scared of. He's in The Neverending Story. The overall villain is not really a villain. It is basically a roiling storm that eats things. And when there's nothing left over, it's not like you have a crushed house to go through and find your memories. There's just nothing left. And then Gmork was basically like the soldier of this, indescribable amorphous villain. The soldier, the general that's, sent to hunt this child. So when I was young, it's like I knew how to be scared of Jaws, and I knew how to avoid Jaws. Like, don't go in the water of that particular town where that guy is still the mayor for some reason. I knew how to avoid piranhas. I knew how to avoid the giant rabbits in Night of the Lepus. Like, so many of these things, I felt like it was in my control, where I was like, okay, don't go into the creepy haunted house alone and you're probably going to be fine.
Okay.
But the nothing terrified me because it was nothing. It was basically, looking back, it was me being scared of death.
Oh,
and
okay.
That's how, my little brain saw it. Was like, this thing gets you and there's nothing left afterwards. And then not only is it on its way, but it's sending this demonic talking smart dog to kill you in particular, so that it can keep eating things. And it's the way that Gmork is, like, you just see kind of like these eyes, these green, almost cat-like eyes, where he's in a cave, so you can't see him fully and completely. But it was just everything that scared me, basically nothingness and being hunted by something that, I didn't know was hunting me. What's interesting is I watched the Neverending Story recently for this podcast, so I wouldn't sound like too much of an idiot.
Impossible to do on my show. You can sound as much like an idiot as you want. I do it all the time. It's great. Go ahead.
Don't
what did you find out?
dare me, man. But it occurred to me that, like, now as an adult looking back, it's not even so much about death as, the death of dreams and creativity, and how as children grow older, and they stop dreaming and playing and telling themselves stories, that they become nothing. And I was like, oh God, that's still my biggest fear. The thought of being like a boring person who doesn't dream and play and have adventures, like Bastian's dad in that, who's just like, hey, sorry your mom died, son, here's your toaster waffle, go to school and do a good job. Glad we had this heart to heart. I do like how it scared me in one way when I was a kid. Now, like, as an adult, it scares me in a much more existential way.
So, looking back at that movie, you watch it now with our adult sensibilities and, 30, 40 years worth of special effects upgrades. It doesn't age all that well special effects wise. So when you go back and you watch it, was it Gmork the monster, or was it because Gmork was associated with this nothing, which seemed to scare you so much because there were things you didn't understand and nothing kind of hit on those bases? So was it the wolf itself or the wolf combined with the nothing that it worked for?
Yeah, I think a kid has a hard time in taking the idea of everything and nothing and being scared of something so large. So this was giving it a face. But, when I guess I was born in 1977, so I probably saw this when I was 6, probably came out, that summer. You see that wolf head emerging from the darkness. And that was when you're like, oh, there's the thing that's scary. So yeah, it was definitely the wolf that scared me at the time. And of course now it's the overall idea.
The overall. Yeah. And some of that fear stuck with you, or is that more of a callback, visceral feeling from when you were young? You still remember it now as a grown up. Does any of that monster still get to you?
I mean, no, like what gets to me now is like Artax dying. That's what gets to me now. But no, now you look and you can see that it's like an extremely well-made kind of, puppet head, and its teeth don't quite fit together.
Yep.
But what got me was this bit of I had to look up Gmork's little speech that he has. Atreyu says, but why is Fantasia dying then? And Gmork says, because people have begun to lose their hopes and forget their dreams, so the nothing grows stronger. And Atreyu says, what is the nothing? And Gmork says, it's the emptiness that's left. It's like a despair destroying this world. And I have been trying to help it. Atreyu says, but why? And Gmork says, because people who have no hopes are easy to control, and whoever has control has the power. You're like, oh, that's a little bit prescient.
It's a little bit advanced for if this movie was aimed at a PG-13 or younger audience. I watched that same clip preparing for this show, and I was like, oh, okay, that's serious.
Deep.
That's pretty deep. And question for you though is Gmork actually a bad monster, or is Gmork just misunderstood?
No, I think he made himself pretty clear. Like, he's in it for the control and power, and he's serving the big bad so that he can have control over the lesser people. Like, I don't think that I don't think he's like, oh, Loki was a bad guy, but he's also kind of good. Like, I think that dude's a straight up, killer wolf that's like, he's literally there to kill a child. That's the whole reason he's in that movie. He's been sent to murder Atreyu.
And I don't know if you know this, but the robotic creature they used to shoot the movie was also in itself evil. And in the scene where Treyu does the final stab, something went wrong with the monster, and it clawed the young actor and scratched his face and almost took out his eye. So they almost...
man, that is some Lucifer stuff right there. That is great. Wow, I didn't know that, but I'm so glad I do.
Let's take a quick break to go over and talk about Mine. Oop, I got to get rid of the Gmork picture.
Oh,
so this is your book that's coming out in just a few days. Can you tell everybody about Mine?
Sure. So Mine is a hoarder haunted house ghost story. It's a middle grade book, so it's written for kids, but I hear adults can read it as well without any major pain.
Okay.
But it is set in a house in Florida near Tampa that's on the swamp. It's about a young drama queen, a girl who is a gifted drama student who has to move from Colorado to Florida. She moves into this house that is just full of old hoarder junk. And as they clean it out, she finds out that, it looks like there's more than just the junk left over. There may be ghosts there as well.
I thought she's a drama queen because she's actually in drama. Not necessarily. She also
she's a dramatic kid. She walks around singing Broadway to herself. She's in the school plays. I think the opening line is like, Lily is literally dying. And she's like, just in the backseat, like, I'm dying. Florida's killing me. So a little bit of both.
Now, is there any influence from your own children that go into writing younger characters now?
There is. Neither of my kids is a drama queen. Lily does have some anxiety that, my whole family juggles with. But I wasn't a drama queen. I didn't live in a house where one could be dramatic. Lily's house is not a very happy house. It has some similarities with mine growing up, and that her father's like, stop being weird, just be normal, calm down. Your imagination is way too big.
Right.
You're being annoying and you need to stop.
Going back to the Neverending Story and Gmork. Now, with me, a lot of the movies I watched when I was a kid that scared the crap out of me influenced my work going forward, even to this day. Even things I'm not entirely scared about, sometimes I'll go back and think, what was it that frightened me as a human being, not just as a child? Can I dial that in? Are there things from Gmork or from the Neverending Story that you have worked into your books, consistently work in, or hope to work in?
I mean, I've had a lot of black dogs in my books. This one, I think the lab is a golden lab, but I have had several black dogs in my books. And then with Aaron Mahnke, who is the writer of the Lore podcast and books, he and I have a comic together called Wellington. That's about a spectral beast called the Barghest. That's, kind of a UK thing that is a spirit that sometimes appears as a black dog.
Okay.
So we kind of wrote that whole comic about a black dog that means bad for you.
And that's a trope that's in a lot of cultures around the world, at least those that have dogs. The just seeing a black dog somewhere is some ominous portent of bad things to come. And Gmork, I think maybe Gmork's responsible for that. I don't know. I'm not sure it was a well-known thing until the Gmork came out. Got a couple of people in the chat room saying the Lore podcast is awesome. And question from the chat room for you: what is your favorite subgenre of horror? Slasher, suspense, creature feature, or other? Questions from Sean Dyer.
Oh man, that's a lot of questions. That's a lot of stuff. I love stuff about I'm big into weird animals. You can see I've got like this painting of a vulture behind me. So I love very weird animals. So Night of the Lepus was one of the first horror movies that I found on my own and really liked. But for a while, I guess in the 80s, there was like some very goofy horror, like stuff like, House 2, where, I remember there being like a caterpillar puppy. So I like kind of quirky stuff. Especially since I've had kids, if I watch something too scary, I get like super keyed up and my emotions kind of can't take it. Like I can't watch babies be hurt at all.
Okay.
So, just for fun, I like watching kind of more campy stuff with weird animals. But for reading, I love a good ghost story. I really love these, the idea of hauntings, and that there's always almost behind it, someone who has been hurt, who's kind of acting out the hurt in perpetuity, and that can be put to rest. I find that like very comforting.
And there's the supernatural element is in your work in a lot of different places. But what I'd like to let the people know, can you walk us through your various pen names so that if they see your name somewhere or names they can know who that is? Go ahead.
Yeah, I have two. The vast majority of my work is under Delilah S. Dawson. You need the S because there is a very lovely lady named Delilah Dawson who writes award-winning Black erotica, and we are not the same person, but she is spectacular, and you should read her too. So Delilah S. Dawson is most of my stuff. And then I have one series, the Shadow series, that's out with Orbit under the name Lila Bowen, which is a pen name, but it's me. So that series is a weird Western monster hunt because I love writing monster hunts.
Do you have, at this point in your career, do you have any plans for a need that you might add a pen name later? Or are you kind of comfortable with your primary and then one secondary there?
I'm pretty easy. I've changed my name a lot of times. Like I did not like the name I was given growing up, so I've kind of shifted it around a bit. So I'm pretty comfortable. If someone came to me right now and said, we want to publish you, we need a pen name, I'd be like, oh, I've got a list. I actually, when they bought Wake of Vultures, my idea, I was like, okay, I understand that sometimes women can benefit from having a masculine pen name. So I was like, what's the most masculine pen name I can think of? So I was like, okay, I'm going to be Dick Manley. And I'm going to like have my pictures taken in like a fedora with like, a
holding an axe,
shadow. And then I choked my first book launch and be like, whoa, I fooled you. And oddly enough, they didn't go for that.
They didn't go for your Mr. Doubtfire approach, huh? Didn't like that.
Now you know where the drama kid part of mine comes from.
Question from Krakens 2686 is, have you ever been on an actual ghost hunt?
I haven't been on a ghost hunt, but I have been on ghost tours. I love cemeteries and hanging out in haunted places. So I've been to them in Savannah, St. Augustine, here in my hometown in Roswell, Georgia. We have some good ones. So I definitely am down for that. I don't know if I wouldn't want to go into a place that was illegal to go into. Like I've never had the urge to go into like an abandoned asylum. I'm very much a doobie that like, I am more scared of the police catching me and telling my parents that I have been breaking a law than I am of a ghost coming at me. So, I would very much go on a monster hunt to like a legal place.
I've only been to a place that I probably shouldn't have gone. It was this giant tannery up in northern Michigan.
Oh God, that's got like dead cow ghosts everywhere.
It was, I'm going to guess somewhere over a century old. All that were left are one or two very tall walls. So it had a very big feel of a castle. And of course, being idiots in high school, this is in the deep woods. And we went there at, 1:00 in the morning, pitch black, cloudy out, no moon, no stars. And we're kind of fumbling our way around this place. And we stumble through the brush into what appears to be a sacrificial tablet. So there was this big chunk of concrete with all kinds of...
an altar.
Yeah, we found an altar. All kinds of symbols written all over it. What might have been blood. And we were like, okay, time to go. We're out of here. But we just did not do the stupid movie kid thing. We were being dumb movie kids start by being there, but we got the hell out of Dodge.
My husband, he grew up in a haunted house in Savannah.
Okay.
And the first time I spent the night there, he was like, we were still in college and it was a very like everybody's in separate rooms by bedtime. And I ran into his room in the middle of the night and I was like, we have to leave. This place is haunted. I can't sleep. I'm having nightmares. This place is terrifying. And he's like, my mom's going to kill us. I'm like, the ghosts are going to kill us. So like, if I could have like that ghost hunting equipment for a day, I would totally go to I'd make sure his mom was far away first, but I'd go to his house and we'd check that out.
So during that instance, did you feel something like a ghost, or was it just weird stuff you just got the willies?
I believe in ghosts. Like, I'll just say it. I'm very sensitive to things and I've had some things I cannot explain. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it just felt very like there is a malevolent presence here. And there was this painting of this little blonde girl holding a rabbit that kept staring at me. Oh, and there were creaks and crunks, and the house has like secret rooms and secret stairs. And like, it's just, and like there's very bad energy there. They had beehives. And the bees became of their own accord Africanized killer bees.
Oh my.
And became like horribly violent. Like they are not happy bees.
This is a badass ghost that can do animal husbandry with insects.
I mean, like, I don't know. There's probably like a dead body. There's probably like a pile of corpses under the beehive.
Oh, talk about being in a room you don't like. When I was a kid, my grandparents had a room for the grandsons. There were 4 of them, my brother and I and our 2 cousins. And whenever they come, we got to sleep in the clown room. And you would think those
are 2 rooms. Oh. Those words don't go together.
And these weren't happy clowns, Delilah. These were the giant paintings of grease paint, sad face clowns. We had a clown lamp. There was a clown blanket. And the worst part is Grandma had a trundle bed. Are you familiar with a trundle bed?
Oh, yeah. Just like the one in Poltergeist. It's
Yep.
slid out from under the bed with the clown in it.
Pull right out. So those of you at home who have never seen a trundle bed, imagine a drawer under a bed and you pull that drawer out. That is also a bed. I got to sleep on the drawer part because I was the younger brother. And I never slept a wink in that house. We would be there for 2 nights, and I just sat up, those goddamn clowns staring down me from the wall, waiting for that drawer to slide in and me get mushed into grated cheese.
What's wrong with that generation that was like, we could pay for anything to put on the walls? How about clowns? Like,
I'm like, it's 4 complete jock nerd grandsons. Throw a Star Wars picture up there. How about some football posters?
Here's a football. Yeah, it's not hard.
Oh,
like,
it was
a sailboat would be better.
Even a sailboat would have been nice. You did mention earlier that you have another new project coming up after mine comes out. Tell us about the new project.
Oh, yeah. So this book is called The Violence. It's out February 1st of 2022. It's my next adult book, and it's kind of that big chunk book. Like, I saw my friends Kevin Hearn and Chuck Wendick do big chunk books. And I was like, okay, let's do this. So mine's only 150,000 words, but it's a family saga of a mom, a grandmother, and a daughter living in a world where there's this sweeping pandemic of brutal violence where randomly and suddenly, with no warning whatsoever, a person goes completely blank and feral and beats to death the nearest person to them. So it's not guns or thought or bow and arrow. It's, I pick up this microphone and beat your head in with it until you're dead. Like a grandmother would beat up a toddler. Like,
ooh, you get some rough stuff in there.
So it's kind of like, violence, malaria, and then kind of how these 3 generations have to deal with this world when they get separated.
And it sounds like anybody who's my fans who are watching, if you've read my novel Infected and you liked it, that is also kind of a contagious violence issue going on. It sounds like this would be right up your alley. So
yeah, it's got some domestic abuse recovery mixed in there too.
Okay.
So it's kind of got it's less, monstery genre speculative fiction and more,
And it was
real people are monsters, speculative fiction.
Yes. The book is called The Violence. Is that correct?
The Violence.
I don't have a picture of the cover of The Violence to show you, but writing this, if you've got that domestic violence in there and you get that just, sometimes as an author, you're like, I need to write this grandma picking up a wrench and murdering this infant. How squicky is that for you to write that kind of stuff? Or do you get to go to sort of a different storyteller place in your brain and leave it free from your own self?
Well, this one, I have been trying for years to kind of work through in prose the domestic abuse that I was raised with.
Okay.
My dad used to choke us unconscious. It was violent and it didn't leave marks and nobody believed it. The first time I wrote a book with this, my then agent said, this isn't believable. People don't abuse people that way. And it was like a knife in the gut, basically. So, now several years later, with many more books under my belt, I found a way to put that into a book and, give these characters a similar situation to what I was in and see what different people would do to work through it and to, get their vengeance. So it was very cathartic, but it was also very emotional because I was having to relive some very dark moments from my childhood.
That must was that cathartic for you, or is the reliving them just the cost of doing business to tell the story you want to tell?
It's very cathartic. Seeing them through, I was a child at the time, so you can imagine I had very definitive thoughts about what should be done versus what was done. As a mother, it was valuable to me to see the lens of the mother and what she's going through and why she's stuck in that situation and how she's working through how to get out of it. So it gave me a lot of understanding around probably what my mother was going through. Okay. Because when you're young, it's very cut and dry. You're like, just divorce him. It's that easy. And it's never, it's never that easy.
It's not that simple.
No, but it was also really fun to, give those characters power that I didn't have. And part of the reason of using The Violence, which is the name of the disease, as a vehicle for the speculative fiction is you can beat the shit out of people and the government's like, oh no, they have the violence. We can't prosecute this. It's an illness. Oops.
It's almost like a biological purge going on. Kim Hansen asked a question that I already know the answer to. Is your books, are they available on Audible?
They should be. I think my first Blood series isn't, but pretty much 90% of my work is available on Audible.
And as far as reading goes these days for you as a consumer, are you ebook, audiobook, or print?
I am mainly an ebook reader just because I, have to carry a lot of stuff. I love having 1,000 books in my phone now.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm waiting in line at the DMV, I'm reading a book. I'm not scrolling through stuff. If I'm just sitting outside on the porch, I'm reading a book. If I'm waiting for a kid in a school line, I'm reading a book. I love that about it. Um, but I also really like print books. Like when I do blurbs, I ask for print books. I find
Mm-hmm.
it a lot easier to have the book sitting in front of me and pick it up and be like, oh yeah, this is very good, versus having to remember, oh, go on my phone, go back to the email, find the PDF, download the PDF,
Oh,
find my place in the PDF.
I
So a
as a,
little bit of both.
as a
A
side
little bit of
note,
both.
I when I get asked for a blurb and they send me a PDF, it's the same thing. I'm like, I cannot read this on my phone. Can you send me the text? And oftentimes they can't because they don't want anything
Yeah.
to happen to it. It's a weird situation. But another story of coming out pretty soon is you have a story in Aliens versus Predator: Ultimate Prey, which we are both
Yeah.
in. So anybody watching this, there's no excuse to not go buy that book in some form because both of the faces you see on the screen are all about this book. Can you tell us about your story in Aliens versus Predator?
Sure. Oh, I'm so excited about it. So when I was a kid, my dad saw Aliens. My parents saw it while I was at the 1 week of summer camp, sleepaway camp I went to my entire life, which is such a bad experience. I wrote another book about that. But I came back and my parents had seen Alien, and it scared them so much that they both jumped at the same first jump scare in Alien,
Okay.
and the movement of both of their bodies jumping broke the couch. So they like jumped, and then the couch hit the ground with a huge boom. And my dad was like, "You have to promise me you will never see this movie. It is way too scary. You may never see it. Promise me." So I had to say that I promise. I really broke that promise. I saw
How
it
long
in
did it
college
take
with
you?
my husband.
How long?
College.
College? Okay.
But he didn't say I couldn't see Alien 3. So that was my first Alien
Ah,
movie. I saw Alien 3 in the theater and was like, "Oh, this is really fun."
yeah.
So
Well, and as someone who is not a fan of Aliens 3, do you like
most people
Aliens
aren't.
3? Do you like Aliens 3 since it was your first experience? Do you like that better than Aliens?
No, I mean it's not a better movie. I loved the running aliens.
Yeah.
I love watching them. It was so cool. But I mean, no. Once you see the first two, it's the third one is it's like having two steak dinners and then being handed like a Vienna sausage. And you're like, oh, I guess technically this is meat. Congratulations.
Well, I haven't had meat for a long time, so I guess this will do. This will be just fine.
Yeah.
Couple more questions for you before we finish up. Try and keep this to a half hour. It's a fun little show. Number one, where do people go to find out about you? Where should I have your Twitter handle up here on the screen? Where do people go to find out about you?
I'm very easy. I am Delilah S. Dawson everywhere. So that's Twitter, Instagram, and my website is delilahsdawson.com, which has all of my books up there. I also have some writers' resources. I try to give out some kind of writing advice on Twitter, and I used to do it on my blog when blogs were still super active. So
Yeah.
plenty of stuff on there. And you can always talk to me on Twitter, and I will, as long as it's not like a Googleable question, I'll talk back to you.
Delilah provides, if you're an aspiring creator of any kind, especially a writer, highly recommend you follow Delilah. She has great information to share online, all kinds of stuff that even I find myself going like, I've been doing this 15 years and I didn't think to ask that question, so I want to see what this answer is. Very good. The final thing we'll go over is, which I think is awesome, your current workout regimen is powerlifting. Is that correct?
No, it's Olympic lifting.
Olympic lifting.
Yeah.
Lifting. Here is a picture from Delilah's Instagram. Where are you also Delilah S. Dawson on Instagram?
Yep.
Yep, same thing. And
Same thing.
and this is not something that a lot of writers do. A lot of writers will walk. Most writers will do nothing. A lot of writers will walk. Some writers will run. Every now and then you get people into the esoteric stuff like sword fighting and a little bit of karate, Krav Maga here. But you are the first Olympic lifter author friend that I have. Can you tell us about what you do?
Well, first of all, I'm not the first. Miranda Keneally and Madeline Rue are both Olympic lifters.
Great.
But yeah, so it's basically there are two main lifts, the clean and jerk and the snatch. But it's all about when you take the large barbell and get it from the ground and over your head in very specific ways. So yeah, Monday, or I guess 3 days a week, I go to the gym and work out and do this extensively. I've been doing it for about 7 months now.
Okay.
But I love it because it's very cerebral. Like I can't do the kind of CrossFit, do that, rush, hurry. And I don't want to walk into LA Fitness and be like, what do I do? But this is really great personalized training. And like, I've never been this strong. It's fun. I could technically deadlift my husband, and I'm really jazzed about that.
And have you seen, now starting out early in this is the first time you've done it, you've said, done something like this. Have you seen just meteoric gains right out of the gate and hit early plateaus, or has it just kind of been a steady state for you?
Yeah, I kind of built up, and you basically they do this in little cycles where you're building strength versus trying to hit PR. So I did have this really nice stretch, like I guess in maybe March, April, May, where I was like hitting PRs constantly. Right now, I did a body scan and I didn't like the numbers I saw there. So I've been kind of cutting weight. So I'm not quite as strong as I was back then, but
Okay.
I'll build back up to it. We'll get there. I like to wear my jeans and have them fit.
I believe it or not, I'm in the exact same boat right now. I'm like, don't like this, so I'm just going to cut down and then try and build it back up a little more logical. Now, I was going to start going to the gym, but now with Delta coming around, I'm like, oh, for crying out loud, I've been waiting for this. I don't know.
Well, see, now I also do mountain biking, which is a great pandemic activity because you're like outside, and you don't get within 6 feet of anybody.
Completely separate from all of the vile scum that is humanity. While Delilah's on the screen, let's go over to these books again before we say goodbye. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Aliens vs. Predator Ultimate Prey, which is out soon, I think.
December, I think.
December. I'm super pumped. My story is a sequel to Aliens Phalanx I wrote and involves a predator, so that's going to be great. Delilah's story is, she's very excited about that too. We have Mine, which is out on August 10th. We have Kill the Farm Boy, a recent series you've been doing with Kevin Hearn. And let's see, Phasma, which I read and it was my favorite Star Wars character, new Star Wars character out of all the new Star Wars characters. Like, Phasma is a badass, and you get to read the whole book. If you're a Star Wars fan and you like Phasma, it's a must buy, read, listen, whatever. And then, Delilah, we didn't get a chance to talk about your comic book writing, but you have written for Spider-Man, and I've got a couple of Spider-Man covers.
Spider-Man, Firefly, Rick and Morty, Labyrinth, Adventure Time, Star Wars Adventures.
All kinds of stuff.
All sorts of stuff.
All kinds.
And then I have creator-owned comics, Lady Castle, Sparrowhawk, and Starpig.
There's just no way to get all the covers up. I didn't have 4 hours to go through her catalog, get all the great stuff she's written. And her favorite monster, which we are now done talking about, is the lovely creature you see up on the screen, Gmork. If you're watching this on YouTube, please click like, click subscribe, hit that stupid bell thing. When I watch YouTube, that's what they tell me to do all the time. So now I get to tell you to all of that as well. And Delilah, anything else to add before we sign off?
No, just thank you guys so much for listening, and hit me up if you have any questions, and hope you try my books and like them. And if you don't, blame Scott.
Martin had one quick question before we go. Lift your dead husband. Is that folded or cut? She said you can deadlift your husband now, and he's I mean, if you have it in a garbage bag, double bag, does it really matter? As long as you cut him up in the garbage bag, everything will be fine. Now the conversation's getting weird as Delilah and I talk about how to dispose of bodies. So, Delilah, thank you so much for being on the show. I hope everybody goes and picks up your books, and good luck with Mine, which is out. I can't wait to read it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, now I will mute over here. I want to say hi to Delilah after the show. So, all you guys, that is our monster of the week this week. One more time, let's go to the great guests we have coming up. Next week, it'll be novelist Nicholas Sansbury Smith, author of the Helldiver series, one of my favorites. So, we're talking about the Terminator from the original movie. On the 13th, we hope to have actress Rachel True, who was, gosh darn it, was in The Spell. That's the big one. And I'm blanking on the Dave Chappelle movie she was in, but two of my favorite movies. She's going to be talking about The Thing from John Carpenter. On the 20th, we have astronomer Dr. Phil Plait. He's going to be talking about the giant ass ants from them. And I have a suspicion he's going to be punching holes in the science of that 70-year-old movie. Let's see how that goes. And then the 27th, I'm so excited. My friend Rachel Burke's professor is going to be talking about the Cookie Monster. And I'm pretty sure, since she documents the work of serial killers in Murder, She Wrote and How to Get Rid of Bodies, that her version of the Cookie Monster will not be your version of the Cookie Monster. There I am now. Now I will sign off. You guys are great. Hopefully I'll see you next Friday, 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and good day to you.